Welcome to the 9:30 call here on October 1st. September has flown by. We're so happy to have back with us Pat Cameron. And so Pat, I'll turn things over to you. Our first question is for you, even though you've been here before, just to tell us a little bit about you, how you came to be in your current role, and we're excited to hear your update.
Well, that might take the whole half hour, but I'll try and be brief. Thank you. It's delightful to be back with you all. I'm Pat Cameron. I am the Director of Family Ties at the Federation for Children with Special Needs. I have been in the early childhood field now for 50 years. Incidentally, the Federation is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, too, a year ahead of the landmark legislation of the Individuals with Disabilities Act. And so we are just delighted to be part of that history. I have been at DOE, EEC, as the 619 coordinator for preschool special education. I've been a child care director, a teacher, and most importantly, I am a parent. And so I bring all of those hats to this work. I currently serve as Massachusetts ambassador to the aRPy ambassador, it's called. It's just the way of spelling out aRPy, which is recommended practices through the Division of Early Child at the Council for Exceptional Children. And so when you think about this organization, it is a subset of the Council for Exceptional Children, which is the largest professional organization for staff, parents, teachers of kids with disabilities. And they have lots of different divisions. And so there's the division for early childhood, there's a division of transition, and I'm talking transition out of school at age 18 to 22. Of course, we've got important transitions which happen within our realm as well. But the organization is terrific. There are Massachusetts chapters. There's the state, national chapter as well. They just held their conference 2 weeks ago now. And so we were doing presentations there as well. But because it's grant funded, so many of their projects are grant funded, their materials are free. Free. And so I want to make sure that everybody has access to these fantastic resources that are available both in English and in Spanish. Sadly, I wish there were more languages, but there currently are just English and Spanish. And they're multifaceted. So we'll go through some of those resources. They're divided or organized within domains. And so when you think about early childhood domains as a program administrator, and I'm talking family childcare programs, public school preschools, it doesn't matter the setting, but these really pertain to all organized licensed group care. So there are 14 practices under the domain of leadership, 11 under assessment, and of course you can read the rest of this list. I've tried to cite the websites for each of these. And DEC, which is again the Division of Early Childhood, -SPED, which is the Council for Exceptional Children's.org, is where you can find these recommended practices. They do have monographs which you can purchase. They have a book that you can purchase. But the place to get all this stuff for free is through the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center, which is located at the University of North Carolina at the Frank Porter Graham Center. They took all of those recommended practices and made all of these terrific worksheets, guidelines, checklists, and so forth. And so their website is listed across the top here. And this is where you can really sort of dig deep. On the division's website, they've got the nice glossy books and things, but this is where you can get printable copies, checklists, and so forth. And I love the way that this is organized because you really have an opportunity to use this in so many ways. You can use the checklists as it when you think about just doing a self-evaluation of your program. You know, what do your materials for families say? How inclusive is your language? What are your environments like? How accessible are they for children? And when you think about professional development, how can you use some of these checklists? And I'll show an example in a minute about a checklist for just regular good self-reflection. And when you think about hiring staff, you may want to take some of these little tidbits within the checklist and put them in your job descriptions. You know, when you think about the interactions, how important those interactions are with both young children and their families, be looking at, you know, some of these suggestions as, ooh, I could put that in my job description, or I could add that to my staff evaluation. And so there's all kinds of ways, you know, put that creative thinking cap on and, you know, and think about all the different practical ways that you can use these checklists and resources. Here is one of the checklists, and this one is particularly on environments. And again, it just asks you, do you do this seldom, some of the time, as often as I can, or most of the time? There's no right or wrong answer. You want to see where you are in this spectrum. And if you're kind of just doing it some or never of the time, you may want to set some goals to improve. But thinking both your indoor play space and your outdoor play spaces. So, and they have them again for all of the 8 domains. And you can just go through and this, you don't have to pass it in to anybody. You don't have to submit it. It can be, you know, you can hold on to it, do it twice a year, do it quarterly, see what your own progress is, see what your staff progress is, set goals within your staff development to improve. And again, this is just one example of, you know, environmental arrangements in the environment. And so I suggest just browsing through. And again, these are all available, downloadable off that ECTA website. And some of the more popular ones are around assessment, instruction, interactions, which is critical, teaming and collaboration, particularly if you're working with early intervention, they're coming into your program, or you're getting ready to transition kids to the public school preschool as they, you know, age out of your infant toddler programs. And if you're part of just early childhood networks within your community, you can use this to see how are we all doing around teaming and collaboration. So if you're part of a system, whether that's a family childcare system or an early childhood system within your community, bring these tools to that arena as well. They are so versatile and can work so beautifully. And then, of course, the big one is around transition, and that's the transition from early intervention to special education. And a lot of kids aren't going to be eligible for special education, so that transition is just as important for those kids too, because you want to be able to provide families with community-based opportunities, whether that's the Y, story hour at the library, or, you know, a childcare program or Head Start program. Be thinking about how you can partner with those programs who may be on the receiving end of that infant and toddler who you have just loved to pieces and help them develop to the best possible level that they can. So another one of the pages within the ECTA website is when you look at, remember, those were the guidelines and checklists that I first introduced, and these get down to the nitty-gritty of the recommended practices. And so you can download them in English, you can download them in Spanish, but you really want a chance to review all the different parts. And again, remembering that there are 8 domains and then a total of 66 practices. So you can just scroll down this page. This is just a screenshot. I didn't think to have it live. I could have. But you can certainly go through and, you know, and peruse them And the topic list is on the side there. The improvement tools is what I just introduced, and these are the tools by topic. And you can just go in, you can read a little history about the recommended practice. These are all research-based tools. And so, and just be creative and, share this, have a little, coffee clatch with your staff at an upcoming staff meeting and bring it up on this, the screen or the, Zoom meeting or however you're meeting, and just peruse through this so that you can see the wealth of information that is here. Each one, when you open up a practice, it looks almost exactly the same. They're all put together in the same way. There's always a video that you can watch and click on. There's always suggested activities to achieve this, and my bar is blocking the top here. So this one is still on environments. And then there's also a vignette. So it talks about what this looks like in a classroom or what this looks like in someone's home. There are guidelines for professionals, for early childhood professionals, and families. So you can be printing these up and offering these to families as ways to suggest supporting children's learning in the home. And those vignettes are just so fabulous. And then at the very bottom, you'll see on the left-hand side, there's a little place how to look at outcomes. You'll know this is working if, and children participate and stay involved. Children do many different things while engaged in the classroom activities. Children demonstrate new behavior and skills. So again, all of this is skill building to provide you the tools for skill building with young children. And then when we get into the particular practices, this is a list of the family practices. And again, you can use these for reflection. You can use these for professional goals. You can use these in your parent brochures. There's all different ways that you can be thinking about, how you might embed some of these recommended practices in your programs. This works for CFCEs. This works for anybody who's working with families with kids with young children. And so that you can just have an opportunity to say, yes, we provide that. Ooh, we might want to strengthen our skills in that area. But it really is just terrific. And if you haven't had experience serving kids with young children with disabilities, this also is a great training program to say, this isn't a big lift, kids are kids. And so when you think about, the strong quality special education is strong everything education and vice versa. So when you think about if you have strong programs that support all children's development, that includes all children. And so you really want to be able to look at this in a very broad systems fashion. So all of these different practices, almost all of it's attitudinal. Almost all of it is philosophical. Not much of this comes with a lot big dollar signs and so forth attached to it. So I want, to be sure that, there are skills involved, but I don't think there's much cost involved. And so I, sort of want to demystify that for you. But to, help, as you look at the bottom of the list, practitioners help families know and understand their rights. And so if the child has a disability, families have rights. And so they have rights to an assessment, they have rights to a program, they have rights to convene a team at any time. I'll put in a plug for the Federation here in that we have free trainings that talk about basic rights and everything else. And so anyone can sign up for any one of those trainings as well. So again, it's just sort of lifting up people's skills and knowledge in order to serve children and families to the best of your ability. And the last one, practitioners inform families about leadership and advocacy skill building opportunities. It's again, you want to not only help that child, build their skills and so forth to be the best that they can be. It's about supporting parents to be the best that they can be. And so all of these recommended practices really improve and float everybody's boat, if you will, to be able to, be the best that you can be, either as a provider, as a family member, and of course, as a young child. So here are the lists of resources. All of this, I sent Amy and Titus the slides, Friday or something, and she can make them available to you. All of these are live links on the PowerPoint, and you can see that there are so many of these recommended practices. Every state has an ambassador. I am the one for Massachusetts. They have also an ambassador for higher ed, Sarah Aker, who is actually the incoming president for the Division of Early Childhood. And she is a professor at UMass Boston in the early intervention certification program there. And she oversees both the undergraduate, graduate, and PhD level programs at UMass Boston. So she's the higher ed ambassador for Massachusetts. And if you go to any other state, not every state has an ambassador, but they all have access to the recommended practices. So I think I'm going to take a breath. I tend to talk really fast. And if you've got any questions, I would welcome your questions, and let's start a discussion.
Thanks, Pat. I will go through the chat. And I think Titus added that Pat is our superstar in early childhood agenda work before. I'm so glad to see her present today. Linda Schumacher shares, happy birthday to the Federation for Children with Special Needs. They were not only a huge resource to me as a teacher of children with special needs, but as a parent as well. And somebody added the link. Thank you, Shayla. And I added to the chat that you've already shared these slides with me, and they're already posted in our 9:30 call follow-up folder, and then where you can see the recordings, which last time we started recording you halfway. So I'm so glad we have this full recording. Edna shares, thank you for providing this valuable resource. I can think of a specific family who just this week expressed feeling overwhelmed and isolated due to the demands of caring for their child with special needs. I will translate this information into their language and share it with them, as I believe it could be helpful in addressing their needs. Kim Davenport loved F5. And then Neri added to save the date that Karen Lopez, your
Yes,
colleague, will be at the 9:30 call in Spanish on December 18th.
that's right. That's right.
Linda Schumacher shares, being dedicated to inclusion of children with learning differences and disabilities is truly attitude. Once a determination is placed, the rest is possible. And then thank you for adding the other website to Parent to Parent. Pat, can you talk about, there's so much information available, and I loved how you said, add some of these components in just to kind of your day-to-day. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think sometimes folks are just overwhelmed that there's so much information out there and they just don't know where to start.
Sure. I think the easiest thing is decide to start someplace. And, and because there is so much and it can seem overwhelming and you just don't know where to start, jump into these recommended practices. If your program right now is doing something really well, start there. Don't start with your problems. You'll get to your problems. But it may feel better to know, even if you're just affirming what you're already doing, can really help lighten some of that pressure you may feel. It's like, oh, I really am doing this. Our staff are terrific at this. Well, maybe we want to do that next month at staff meeting. And so take things in small pieces. Nothing changes overnight. and
Right.
so you really want to pace yourself in a way. If you have the opportunity to serve a new family and you've not served a family with a child with autism, I'll just use that as an example, then start thinking about, those interactions. Start thinking about, how can I best communicate? The collaboration and teaming also talks about how you can collaborate with families. You know, to be able to know that you're part of a team with that family and their EI program or their early childhood special ed program, so that you're all communicating and staying on the same page and sharing documents. You know, early childhood special ed and EI have to be doing progress reports, have to be doing, regular monitoring of the child's progress. You want to be able to help that child practice the skills and goals that are on their IFSP or their IEP in your everyday activities. So think about how you can look at your daily schedule, and if Johnny or Susie is working on, articulation and verbal speech, they've got a speech delay. Think about how many times just during the regular course of your day you can be practicing speech. At the moment they walk through the door, good morning, Johnny. Good morning, Susie. And be practicing those skills. Snack time, breakfast, snack time, free play in the block corner, asking those open-ended questions, giving children ways to communicate as they are learning those verbal speeches, thinking about picture cards, thinking about using sign language, supporting children in their development, not just waiting for it to happen.
Right. I think
Kids
that's so
need that
tempting.
support.
Right.
Kids need that support. And it's so easy to do just during the regular course of the day. Talking
Right.
about body parts when you're doing diaper changing, all those moments that you have really one-on-one.
Right.
And, because that happens during the day. It's not taking out special more time.
Right.
It's using all of
Integrating it.
those as, routine base, Elizabeth put in. Um, but thinking about, how you can just take a look at your day, and you can even use a grid, IEP or IFSP goals down one side, the daily schedule across the top, and
Match it
how
up.
many times the child can practice those skills. It's also very handy when the parent is concerned that they're only getting speech once a week for half an hour.
Right.
And it's like, but look how many times they get to
They're
practice
doing
that.
this. Speaking of
And
IEPs, are you hosting workshops on the new IEP form and helping parents understand how to best participate in the planning?
we are. Yes, we're running them all the time. Again, check that fcsn.org website, go to the training calendar. There are lots of opportunities to be looking at that new IEP form. It is a fabulous form. I personally love it. It asks every single child for the need for assistive technology. And so a child does not have to have a specific disability. It's a question that's asked every single child. And that includes communication devices. So for that child who is not verbal yet, or may not ever be verbal, what are assistive technology devices that are there? ASL instruction, all of that is can be available. And so you can think about, helping parents understand that as well, thinking about how you can help parents advocate for their children by setting that model that you're advocating for their child. And so be that model for family members who do experience very overwhelming situations.
Right. I love the grid. Edna also loves the grid idea because you should do that with all children. Right? Like that's such a good way to show learning through play. Somebody added, I love your emphasis on parent advocacy skill building, crucial for life. Can you say more to how to support parents when children are not with providers?
Sure. I mean, again, the Federation can be a fabulous resource. We have free trainings. Most of it all is still on Zoom. COVID did that to us. We were, used to go out and do all these in person, and now still the vast majority of our trainings are on Zoom. And even though it's being hosted by a town you don't live in, it doesn't matter. The information is the same. And so if you see that Chelsea is having, a basic rights workshop, just sign up because the information is all the same. And, laws implementation may vary district to district because we
Right,
are a local control state.
right,
The laws are all the same. And so, be thinking about how you can help families. Every licensed program is responsible to have resources for families. And so, just posting the monthly calendar or just the website or, something that families can take a look at. We have the Essentials of Turning 3, which really helps families understand and professionals understand that transition process and the timelines involved, and and just being able to have, yes, there are trainings in Portuguese, there are trainings in Chinese, there are trainings in Spanish, there are trainings in Vietnamese, there are trainings in Haitian Creole. Thinking of where everybody sits in the office here.
right.
But we have a whole outreach team that are both bicultural and bilingual staff. And so we can help problem solve. We have an information line. People can call and get information. And so please be in touch once, twice, weekly, whatever works for you.
I know how helpful, and I just have to say, the 9:30 call, we had over 70 people on this morning, Pat. So I just want to acknowledge that the people keep coming. You gave such great information. Lots of appreciation in chat. Your wealth of information is invaluable. We're lucky to have your support and work group 4. Love the idea of the grid, good for all children. And that's not from Titus, that's from Corinne. You have more work group 4 fans. Pat, we'd love to have you continue to come on. I think, whenever it makes sense, if there's something new, I just really want to appreciate your, so somebody added, your knowledge is extensive and your passion is infectious. Thanks for building the next generation of advocates and leaders. So we'll send you this chat. Thank you for the slides, for all the resources. So folks, go to the follow-up folder. Everything's there. We're so glad we recorded this call. You can see it on our playlist. We have a bit of a program shift for this week. We have we're going to move updates to the field next week. We're going to have, I can't remember who's coming on tomorrow. And then Thursday, we are not going to have a call. With apologies, it's Rosh Hashanah and we had scheduled a call. So we will not have a call on Thursday, but we'll be back in action tomorrow and then next Monday. Kim Davenport, last word. Perhaps we can host a conversation target on supporting educators, especially new teachers, help directors think about where to begin. That may be great.
Happy if you want to gather topics and let me know if there's something you want me to come back on. I'm happy to do that.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Pat, for being with us today. We will see you tomorrow. Stay tuned. I'm going to send the updated email with the updated schedule for this week. Thanks so much and have a good day.
So long, everybody.
Thanks.